Hi, it's Mimi at Giggly Guppy. We're starting a new book today. It's an old favorite of mine. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? And it's by Spencer Johnson, MD. Who Moved My Cheese? An Amazing Way to Deal with Change in Your Work and in Your Life by Spencer Johnson. It's a quick read. But I'm going to separate it into several videos so that if you don't have time to listen to the whole thing in one sitting, you can break it up conveniently into manageable little chunks. So, a couple of quotes. The best laid schemes, O mice and men, often go astray, and that's by Robert Burns. Life is no straight and easy corridor along which we travel free and unhampered, but a maze of passages through which we must seek our way, lost and confused now and again, checked in a blind alley. But always, if we have faith, a door will open for us, not perhaps one that we ourselves would ever have thought of, but the one that will ultimately prove good for us. I love that. That's by A.J. Cronin. This is the parts of all of us. These are the characters that we're going to be talking about again and again in the book. I'm going to read that now. Parts of all of us, the simple and the complex. The four imaginary characters depicted in this story, the mice Sniff and Scurry, and the little people Hem and Haw, are intended to represent the simple and the complex part of ourselves, regardless of our age, gender, race, or nationality. Sometimes we may act like Sniff, who sniffs out change early, or Scurry, who scurries into action, or Hem, who denies and resists change as he fears it will lead to something worse, or Haw, who learns to adapt in time when he sees changing leads to something better. Whatever parts of us we choose to use, we all share something in common. We need to find our way in the maze and succeed in changing times. And this is The Story Behind the Story by Kenneth Blanchard, PhD. I am thrilled to be telling you the story behind the story of Who Moved My Cheese because it means the book has now been written and is available for all of us to read, enjoy, and share with others. This is something I've wanted to see happen ever since I first heard Spencer Johnson tell his great cheese story years ago before he wrote our book, The 1 Minute Manager, together. I remember thinking then how good the story was and how hopeful it would be to me from that moment. I remember thinking then how good the story was and how helpful it would be to me from that moment on. Excuse me. Who Moved My Cheese is a story about change that takes place in a maze where four amusing characters look for cheese. Cheese. Cheese being a metaphor for what we want to have in life, whether it's a job, a relationship, money, a big house, freedom, health, recognition, spiritual peace, or even an activity like jogging or golf. Each of us has our own idea of what cheese is, and we pursue it because we believe it makes us happy. If we get it, we often become attached to it, and if we lose it or it's taken, it can be traumatic. The maze in the story represents where you spend time looking for what you want. It can be the organization you work in, the community you live in, or the relationships you have in your life. I tell the cheese story that you are about to read in my talks around the world and often hear later from people about what a difference it has made for them. Believe it or not, this little story has been credited with saving careers, marriages, and lives. One of the many real life examples comes from Charlie Jones, a well respected broadcaster for NBC TV, who revealed that hearing the story of Who Moved My Cheese saved his career. His job as a broadcaster is unique, but the principles he learned can be used by anyone. Here's what happened. Charlie had worked hard and had done a great job of broadcasting track and field events at an earlier Olympic Games, so he was surprised and upset when his boss told him he'd been removed from these showcase events for the next Olympics and assigned to swimming and diving. Not knowing these sports as well, he was frustrated. He felt unappreciated and he became angry. He said he felt it wasn't fair. His anger began to affect everything he did. Then he heard the story of Who Moved My Cheese. After that, he said, he laughed at himself and changed his attitude. He realized his boss had just moved his cheese, so he adapted. He learned the two new sports and in the process found that doing something new made him feel young. It wasn't long before his boss recognized his new attitude and energy, and he soon got better assignments. He went on to enjoy more success than ever and was later inducted into Pro Football's Hall of Fame, Broadcasters Alley. That's just one of the many real life stories I've heard about the impact this story has had on people, from their work life to their love life. I'm such a strong believer in the power of Who Moved My Cheese that I gave a copy of an early pre-publication edition to everyone, more than 200 people working with our company. Why? Because like every company that wants to not only survive in the future but stay competitive, the Ken Blanchard companies are constantly changing. They keep moving our cheese. While in the past we may have wanted loyal employees, today we need flexible people who are not possessive about the way things are done around here. And yet, as you know, living in constant white water with the changes occurring all the time at work or in life can be stressful unless people have a way of looking at change that helps them understand it. Enter the cheese story. When I told people about the story and then they got to read Who Moved My Cheese, you could almost feel the release of negative energy beginning to occur. Person after person from every department went out of their way to thank me for the book and told me how helpful it had been to them already in seeing the changes going on in our company in a different light. Believe me, this brief parable takes little time to read, but its impact can be profound. As you turn the pages, you will find 3 sections in this book. In the first, A Gathering, former classmates talk at a class reunion about trying to deal with the changes happening in their lives. The second section is The Story of Who Moved My Cheese, which is the core of the book. In the story, you will see that the 2 mice do better when they are faced with change because they keep things simple, while the 2 little people's complex brains and human emotions complicate things. It is not the mice that are smarter. We all know people are more intelligent than mice. However, as you watch what the 4 characters do and realize both the mice and the little people represent parts of ourselves, the simple and the complex, you can see it would be to our advantage to do the simple things that work when things change. In the third section, A Discussion, people discuss what the story meant to them and how they are going to use it in their work and in their lives. Some readers of this book's early manuscript preferred to stop at the end of the story without reading further and interpret its meaning for themselves. Others enjoyed reading a discussion that follows because it stimulated their thinking about how they might apply what they'd learned to their own situation. In any case, I hope each time you reread Who Moved My Cheese, you will find something new and useful in it, as I do, and that it will help you deal with change and bring you success, whatever you decide success is for you. I hope you enjoy what you discover, and I wish you well. Remember, move with the cheese. And that's written by Ken Blanchard of San Diego, California. And just for your information, this book was published in 1998, but it absolutely never, it's never outdated because the principles are timeless. So this is the very beginning of the book. Who Moved My Cheese? And we're on page 21. A Gathering, Chicago. One sunny Sunday in Chicago, several former classmates who were good friends in school gathered for lunch, having attended their high school reunion the night before. They wanted to hear more about what was happening in each other's lives. After a good deal of kidding and a good meal, they settled into an interesting conversation. Angela, who had been one of the most popular people in the class, said, "Life sure turned out differently than I thought it would when we were in school. A lot has changed." "It certainly has," Nathan echoed. They knew he had gone into his family's business, which had operated pretty much the same and had been a part of the local community for as long as they could remember. So they were surprised when he seemed concerned. He asked, "But have you noticed how we don't want to change when things change?" Carlos said, "I guess we resist changing because we're afraid of change." "Carlos, you were captain of the football team," Jessica said. "I never thought I'd hear you say anything about being afraid." They all laughed as they realized that although they had gone in different directions from working at home to managing companies, they were experiencing similar feelings. Everyone was trying to cope with the unexpected changes that were happening to them in recent years, and most admitted that they did not know a good way to handle them. Then Michael said, "I used to be afraid of change. When a big change came along in our business, we didn't know what to do, so we didn't adjust and we almost lost it. That is," he continued, "until I heard a funny little story that changed everything." "How so?" Nathan asked. "Well, the story changed the way I looked at change, from losing something to gaining something, and it showed me how to do it. After that, things quickly improved at work and in my life. At first, I was annoyed with the obvious simplicity of the story because it sounded like something we might have been told in school. Then I realized I was really annoyed with myself for not seeing the obvious and doing what works when things change. When I realized the four characters in the story represented the various parts of myself, I decided who I wanted to act like, and I changed. Later, I passed the story on to some people in our company, and they passed it on to others, and soon our business did much better because most of us adapted to change better, and like me, many people said it helped them in their personal lives. However, there were a few people who said they got nothing out of it. They either knew the lessons and were already living them, or more commonly, they thought they already knew everything and didn't want to learn. They couldn't see why so many others were benefiting from it. When one of our senior executives, who was having difficulty adapting, said the story was a waste of his time, other people kidded him, saying they knew which character he was in the story, meaning the one who learned nothing new and did not change. "What's the story?" Angela asked. "It's called Who Moved My Cheese?" The group laughed. "I think I like it already," Carlos said. "Would you tell us the story? Maybe we can get something from it." "Sure," Michael replied. "I'd be happy to. It doesn't take long." And so it began. So in the next video, I will read the story of Who Moved My Cheese. It's really a great book. I hope you'll stick around, and thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time to continue reading from this book that will make you smile.